Good morning, everybody. So, Puxatawny Phil has said there's going to be 6 more weeks of snow. We're just getting fired up here in Sales Chatter. So, this is Sales Chatter, the only podcast where we're trying to get 10,000 reps to hit a million GP. I'm your co host, Ryan Mohammed. With me is my main man, the bodacious cowboy, the president and CEO of RGTX Logistics Solutions, Jeff Dickinson. What's going on, brother?
Hey man, unbelievable. I always watch Puxatawny Phil, and this morning I didn't, but that's horrible. I mean, we haven't got any snow anyway here in New Jersey to speak of, but hey, it's actually the Bodacious Cowboy Day. Have my trademark, man. So let's get into this. Let's go.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
There we go. Puxatawny Phil Day and Bodacious Cowboy Day. So you got your trademark. How did that all kind of come together? When did you have the
Well,
idea to?
it's just something that I was toying around with, and one person, actually, it's pretty funny. Matt Leffner, he's a lawyer and stuff like that, a friend on LI, and he says you should brand that. And I was like, "No, that's not a bad idea. The word's getting around, the bodacious cowboy, and it's like, you know what? That's probably a damn good thing to do. And boom, I went and did it. I searched it, and it's all mine. And I have a ton of things that I'm going to do with it. But I have to thank my good friend Mark Ridley, who bought that beer can on HPLS and said, you resemble this so much. And then he said, we should call you the Bodacious Cowboy. And it was born. So it's all Mark's fault. I've got to give credit where credit is due. And it's stuck, and it's going to be pretty fun. I'll tell you that.
So I didn't know that. I didn't know that Bodacious Cowboy is something that you guys realized on HPLS. I always assumed that this was something that your moniker from back in the day or something like that. So
No, this goes way back when it was Dan and myself and TJ, DJ, and we just started talking, and it was on a fun Friday. And Mark happened to say, I went into whatever, and his son said, because he saw the beer can, and then he didn't see me, and then he saw me, and he says, "Dad, is that the Bodacious Cowboy?" It was just hilarious.
It was born from there. So, Puxatawny Phil, the Bodacious Cowboy, named 2 more iconic names out. One is doing it for logistics, one's doing it for the rest of the world, right? So, Jeff,
Yes.
we're coming to the conclusion of our themed week and this progression that we're doing. Just for everybody who's watching, next week we're going to be live still, but we're going to be recapping each week every single day. So think of it kind of like a season finale that we're kind of doing, a 3-part or 4-part season finale. Today's a fun day, and it's something that everyone's really modest and everything like that, talking about that. And what triggered me wanting to do this episode today was, if anybody knows who Peter McKinnon is, he's a Toronto photographer, videographer. He's one of the top guys. He's honestly, if you want to get photography or videography done for any branding or any kind of company, like Netflix, I know he's worked with Kia, he's worked with Hyundai, and he's worked with all these big manufacturers and companies to basically build their brand. He said that when he was doing YouTube videos, the first time that he said, okay, I'm going to turn this into a full-time career and go all in, was when he made 55 cents off of adware on Google itself. So with that being said, I know a lot of us, we get pushed, everything like that. Jeff, I do want to ask you your first commission check, and I don't want to hear about the 9,000, the year of the $9,000 where you made the. Let's keep it on. Let's figure out, what did you do with it? How did that feel? And did it motivate you to move forward? Which obviously did, right? But let's hear that story, brother.
Oh man, I'll tell you what. Not a sales guy, at least I'm consistent in saying it. So I went about doing my business. I only made $9,000 that year. I spent a lot of money outbound, got nothing inbound per se. And I got that first one, and it was like horrible. I mean, I still got it and stuff like that, but it was just horrible. It was like, what the hell do I need to do to move forward? I've got the knowledge, I've got the background. How do I get in there? And next thing you know, it took a long time. If you saw the list of sales guys and the women that I had that are no longer with me, it was chaotic. I mean, I'm talking thousands of dollars put out, and it just didn't work. It didn't work. And so I reinvented the wheel, started going down a different path. One thing led to another, and voila, it was a horrible feeling. I mean, I'm just being honest. I wasn't like, all right, my first one. It was quite the opposite. Just truth be known, quite the opposite, because I really didn't know what direction it was going to go in. But I'm a pretty confident guy, and I still focused in. I may have been focusing in on the wrong side of the fence, and once I got into that direction, it just started going, and then the commission check started getting larger, and they kept on getting larger and larger, and that snowball from a little thing like this, took the path of a very large hill, and by the time it got to the bottom, it was as large as the Empire State Building, and it's still growing. I have a hell of a lot of more, I have a lot of things to do, let's put it that way, that are still in the mix. So yeah, it was terrifying.
So yours was terrifying. Mine was completely the opposite. So a little bit of background story here. I did logistics coordination. So I was a logistics coordinator for about 2 years, and then I decided to get into sales. And for me, it was so the first month, there's expectations by the company and things like that. But I was on basically making minimum wage, and then you want to get to a point where I think you got to hit like a certain. I think you had to hit 5K GP before you can hit like I think like $20 an hour plus commission. I think it was like 6 or 7%. Anyways, I really hustled because I knew what it took to kind of happen, and just kind of like the story of like that first commission check. It was amazing. So the way that I was kind of raised by my parents was, hey, always kind of give money to charity. So charity was the first thing that we gave. I gave like 15 or
Awesome.
20% away to charity, and the next thing is that for those who don't know about my story and like that, but I grew up like in a single family home. Like it was just my mom, my sister, and I when I was like 15, 16. So I always like my mom has always kind of been that backbone for our family. Just that she just evoked so much emotions. She never gave up. That hard worker. She put a smile on her face. She did things that she didn't want to do for us, but she made it happen, and that was the strength of a mother and responsibility. But anyways, the reason why I say that is the next thing I wanted to do was treat her, right? So we went to Red Lobster. That was our big treat for there. And for me, I think I'm not a person to like want things, or like even when I think I was what. This was like 6 years ago, right? So I didn't really want to accumulate things. I think I just bought myself like a basketball jersey, like the Toronto Raptors, like one of those Nike or Adidas things. But for me, the emotion was like being able to like say that, hey, I've arrived. I've kind of not necessarily that I've arrived, but at the end of the day, the results of all the work that I put in, the days that I didn't want to make that extra call, or I didn't want to talk to that carrier who dropped on the load, it paid off in that moment there. So the feelings that I had when it came to getting that first commission check was like, okay, how do I triple this? How do I quadruple this? How do I make this better and make an
Hear you.
imprint? And you know, the one thing that I really like too, and kudos to my first boss, because he pulled me in the office, made me seem like something bad was gonna happen or something like that. He's like,
Always.
he literally put out his hand, Ryan, congratulations, you arrived. And those were the three words he said. I was like, arrived where? And then he's like, I want to go over your commission check with you. So mind you, this is not a bragging episode or anything like that. This is kind
No,
of I
it's
want people to hear our stories, right? It's all subjective. And
it's not. It's not. And I know your background and stuff, and when you got first involved into it, and it wasn't your career. It became your career, so to speaking, because you came from a whole different vertical and dropped into this vertical. So what you did in that time, is congratulatory. It really is, because you didn't have that knowledge or that background. For me, though, if we want to go into retrospect and where I started, And, at that time it was $3 and something cents an hour, believe it or not. I mean, back then. But that was a lot of money when you thought about it in that time in the 80s, $5 and stuff like that. And my background is I had a little bit of college, not a whole hell of a lot of college, but I believed in myself and my bosses that I had. So if you're looking at how did I feel in a different path about what I have done, it's incredible. Not on the sales side, but if you look at that, and like yourself, that first time where, you're not going on book smart and stuff like that, but more street smart and busting your ass day in and day out. I broke my back, my fingers, had a very hard time, family and all of this kind of stuff. But I kept that focus on, and my boss was very grateful to, I'm very grateful to him to give me that helping hand and to move me along. And like yourself, when he shook your hand, my coming into logistics when I took over my boss's role, and it started manifesting, and I believed in myself, and I took roles that needed a college education that I didn't have, because I relied on my background and my experience, and they took me and believed in me as I believed in myself. And it really comes down to, Ryan, is how confident are you in your abilities, and do you want to take that leap of faith even though it will fail you, possibility of failing you. I took that leap of faith, and it paid off wonderful. And especially when you take a $50,000 increase in pay in 1 year, that's a life changer way back when. And it kept on evolving and moving forward and getting larger and larger and larger. So some people have to take the rough path, and they pay a tremendous price in it, emotionally, physically, mentally, family, business. It all depends on what you want in life, man. And it's not easy, And I say to all the people out there, man, have faith, man. Take that leap of faith if you believe in yourself. You have to believe in yourself first before you can go out now. So
I completely agree with that. It's one of the best things. And as you're talking, it reminds me of the conversation I had with Daman last week. We were saying that, go all in, because he knows that he goes all in because he knows that something great is on the other side of it. Right. And like you were already talking about here, you can fail, but it's, hey, it might not work this time, but hey, something else might work out. Right. And you might learn from that experience, and just move forward and just keep going. And that was the interest that I had with me, because I understood that, hey, I was going to have up and down months, but I knew that feeling. So for me, Jeff, when I had that first commission feeling, is how I kind of treat how I talk to logistics manager. I want to know their feelings when they got their bonuses, when they got their, I know Dan has a great story about one of his customers when they were able to buy that pool, with their commission check from the stuff that he helped do for them as well. And I think when you are able to sell on emotions and be yourself and be true to yourself, that's where I'm a big believer. We're talking about the first commission check, and we're talking about our stories, and everybody in the audience, I would love to hear your stories as well. But it's not about us, it's not about the money that we've made. Nobody cares. Work harder. But it's like that. How can we help people with the knowledge that we have, not just on monetary? And I think when it comes to it, that's the reason why I want to do this, Jeff. And I was really intrigued to find out, like you said, you have your partner and you guys do that. Have they been able to share the successes that you both have had together? And I know your ex-boss works for you as well.
Yeah. It's so funny, the way that you build long-term business relationships. And I got this smirk on my face because I was just talking to my ex-boss yesterday, because we're talking about moving forward and the logistics, if you will, of what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. And I remember just a really quick story that we were at an oak table talking to some CEOs, and this one guy, he couldn't talk well, he mumbled, and you couldn't understand it, but we were that type of person to not question it and kind of listen to the tone and make a decision on that. And this guy said one something, and we're sitting there, And I look out of my left eye. He looks out of his right eye. We didn't make anything. We didn't say anything, obviously, or call him out on it. Like, what the hell did you say? And I mean, it was really mumbled, like he had marbles in his mouth. And I'm laughing right now. And so I looked at him and I go, absolutely, we can do it. And then he looked at me at a corner of the eye and he was like, okay, and so we'll follow up with you tomorrow and then we'll start whatever. We walk out of the office and we're going to our car and we just started laughing our asses off because I said, Mike, did you know what he said? He goes, I have no idea. But I think what you said to him really hit a nerve because they want to move forward. And it was just like that interaction, building those long-term business relationship and listening to the tone and trying to understand what's being said, even though you didn't understand it. You didn't want to say, can you say that again? Saying the right things. It's that's the kind of business relationship that I had with my boss who works for me now. It's we laugh about it every day.
Yeah, and it's amazing to kind of see because those are forged from having that first start, right? And to everybody who's watching, I want to let them, even if they're brand new, kind of get into the industry. It's like this industry and sales in general, because Jeff, I don't know what your answer would be, so I'll ask you as well. But I know if I was to leave logistics today, I'd be successful in any sales company, whether it be technology, whether it be medical sales. If I'm like Will Smith's character carrying those bone density scanners in pursuit of happiness, I'd be successful because the skills that I've learned are transferable. And one thing that I always appreciate is like when we're able to talk to different people from different backgrounds and
Yeah.
understand what they look at. Like I love talking to real estate agents just to hear because our stuff is hard. But okay, maybe real estate is the one thing I could never get into because you got to source your leads. You got to really, really put in the work and you grind out. But we always feel like there's real estate agents popping up out of everywhere. But you've noticed the ones who've been in the game for a long time, they're the most successful. They're not going anywhere. Those are the guys or the gals who have really, really put in the work. And Ryan Serhant is one of my favorite influencers, and he's a real estate mogul where he actually opened up his own real estate company last year after being on a real estate agent himself. And the one thing he's always kind of said was that just bet on yourself. You're going to have those days where you don't want to make those calls, but whatever you do today, it's not for today. It's gonna snowball to next month, a couple months, and going forward and things like that. So what are your thoughts on like basically understanding going through the ebbs and flows of our amazing industry, Jeff?
Yeah. What would I do? Well, I can tell you right now, if it's logistics and it's the logistics industry, no matter how complex it is, I could definitely, my background and experience, I can transfer that to anything. Sales, no way. It's so funny. At least I'm consistent. I'm not a sales guy. Yet my old bosses and everybody else says, you sure do come across as one, And the thing is, I don't know. And I keep on saying this, and it's very hard for other people to understand unless they were in that position. But when you're in a shipper's position, you're working for a company that engages with brokers and salespeople on the outside, you get this god-awful feeling inside of you that here we go again, and it's embedded into my head, and I'm sorry and I apologize for it. But man, I used to get ripped up, and I understand the complaints of other shippers and everything out there, that everyone out there that has that same feeling that, they're getting harassed daily and all this. And that's a problem of mine because unless you've sat in there and you feel that, you're not going to be empathetic. You're not going to have that empathy built into you, especially if you're just working from a sales point. You have no idea what these guys go through. I do, and it's a big problem of mine. I'm getting through it. I get through it every single day. I think that's primarily the reason why I don't make many phone calls, because I think there's a different way of slaying a dragon in the right way to gain interest. But it's difficult. So yeah, any logistics operation I could go into, but I'll say it right now, and I'm firm on it. I will never work for another corporation. It's going to be my business, and it's me moving forward. I'm done working for a corporation. So please don't send me any
all the recruiters who've been hitting up my inbox, hit up Jeff Dickinson. Yeah, the bodacious cowboy, hit him up.
I don't want.
I like that you said that because, for me and what Lisa kind of brings up here, Funny story for you. So yeah, we're all salespeople. And last night, daily plug of Toastmasters, but it was last night. Our table topics was to sell the audience on something. So somebody brought, we have the table topics master, and they brought an advertising book from the 40s. So Jeff, you probably grew up with it. I'm joking. But they
40s.
brought it, yeah, from the 40s. Literally, they had
We should
a
have a huge
fridge. Well, they had Firestone tires. They had this fridge, a GE fridge that for the first time ever had a freezer and a freezer lock. And just being able to get those, and even cigarettes. One of them had to pitch cigarettes to us, which was pretty funny to kind of talk about. But we're all salespeople when we think that we're not. And I always look at the point of view is that, hey, when we're not actually sitting at our desk making calls or sending emails or doing whatever, I sell my dogs, hey, you guys want to go for a walk? I sell my wife, hey, where do you want to go for dinner?
Absolutely.
We're salesmen from there. And I think, as you, like you said, you put yourself in the shoes of being a logistics manager. I'm gonna be blunt when I say this. What you went through is not what every single logistics manager went through. So for me, I'm not harassing a logistics manager when I call them. And even if they get 30, 40 calls a day, it's my job. It's my job to interrupt their day so that I can have a conversation. If I was it's like jumping the rope, right? If I'm waiting in line, waiting for the right time, I'm never going to be able to get in there and show them what I can do. Right. So for me, I don't have that mindset of, hey, I'm interrupting their day. They're so busy, blah, blah, blah. From there, it's right opportunity. It's for me to have that conversation with them. If they want to buy, they want to buy. If they don't, they don't. Chris Jolly had an episode yesterday with his that I was looking at was he's built a new company. He's building up his book of business right now. And one thing that stood out was that he's Chris Jolly with this amazing podcast. He's known in the industry. He gets no's. You would think that when he calls it just like, oh my God, Chris Jolly, let me give him all the business. But with that being said, he's able to understand what we're going through in the trenches, which you always kind of talk about, right? So
Yeah.
I think, like you said, you're not a salesperson, and you're an operator, and whatever you want to call yourself. I still think you're a salesperson from everything that you kind of do. But there we go.
I laugh at it, and folks out there, you see, this is what collaboration is all about. All right, Ryan and I are good friends, and we learn to agree to disagree. We may not be on point all the time, but these are the type of relationships that you have to have with your customers if you're going to move forward. Yeah, Ryan and I have been doing this show for several months now, and we talk about so many different things that should be talked about. And the thing is that when I talk about the sales side, I think that the sales side is archaic. I think it's from the dinosaur area. It's been something that has been moving forward for decades. It's the same pitch. It's the same approach. I believe that there are different ways to slay the dragons out there. I've proved it. I'm doing very well without making many calls because I found a way, to move into other companies from the customers that I'm doing business with, because I have that relationship with them. I want to make them happy. I want to make them successful. I give them suggestions and options and solutions to their problems, and they in turn take those ideas and what I've spoken about and help them with, and they share it with their compadres of like businesses, whether it's the Chamber of Commerce or somebody. Hey, who's working your logistics operation? Who's doing this? Not that it comes up all the time, but if it does, I want to make sure that I'm in position A, that the first thing comes out of my customer's mouth is, I work with Jeff Dickinson, the Bodacious Cowboy. No, I'm just kidding. And they give them their name, and now I am the chasee rather than the chaser, and I've set it into a post. That is the best position that anybody can get into, focusing in on the time that you spend trying to prospect and the results that you get, and then you look at the wasted time and then the revenue that you get from all those phone calls. Is it worth it, compared to what you could make if you really exploited the customers that you already have in-house? I mean, I don't think a lot of people out there really realize what they have at their fingertips if they just explored further. I think they would. I think their approaches would change. It has for me.
Yeah. And I'm the opposite when you kind of say that because I love the chase. I always find the journey is better than the destination. And like we said, this is what, for me, like even David kind of brings up a point. What are we doing ourselves with the sales call? If we almost 100% believe what we're doing, almost guarantee the thought of harassing someone will disappear. And that's the way I treat it because I'm always positive in my calls. And that's the one thing with the mindset is, I know you just talked about wasted time in like prospecting. I'll never see that because if I'm doing something, like the only wasted time to me is if I'm sitting on my couch just scrolling through TikTok and Instagram. That's wasted time for me. That's the only thing I would kind of designate that. But if I'm putting in the work for me, I think for me, like we've kind of gone back, and I don't want to get back to the prospecting episode that we kind of had, but this is kind of like after the commission and kind
Yeah,
of like long term growth. But you gotta bat before I somebody this morning, I think Sean Vernier or something like that, on LinkedIn was saying analysis paralysis, where you got to take massive action. You can't be researching an account for like 10 make the call. And I made a comment where saying my best conversations I've had, I didn't research them. I just called them, find out who they were, find out about their family, find out about the things that they like, their hobbies. And for me, that's not a waste of time. That's me trying to engage and build a relationship. Just like you're the same way too. Like you strike up conversations for like your luminaries, for anywhere. You can be you're a car guy. So imagine you're getting an oil change for your car and you strike up a conversation with a mechanic. Mechanic has a brother-in-law who works logistics for any kind of Firestone or something like that. So
yeah.
I'm on the thing that, hey, I can always get better and I'll never get to the destination where I want to get to when it comes to prospecting, closing customers and all this stuff. But that's what I love about this industry. And I always say this, and I will be the first to say that I am learning. So I always kind of say this and put this into universe, Jeff, that I'm
I'm
only
glad
here for a couple more. Yeah, I'm only here for a couple more years. I'm taking that away. I'm here forever. This is my industry that I love, and I want to be able to help people and just collaborate with everybody. So I'm taking
absolutely.
away that mental block. So
Yeah,
sorry
yeah,
for rambling there, but
I do too. And I think a lot of people out there know with the content and everything, whether they agree or disagree with me, I try to get it out there to, entice thought provoking ideas, to try to get people to think of other options that they may have or alternatives. It works for me. And like I said, what works for me may not work for Ryan or others, but it's just an opinion. It's so subjective, the sales approach, right? But the thing is as easy, or I shouldn't say it's easy, but if you have a feather in your cap and you have a lead and you have somebody that's referred you and referenced you, you get in there, you didn't do anything. You're like having a conversation in the elevator, in line in Walmart, or with your mom or your sister. It just flows because
yes,
logistics flows in my blood. It has for almost 40 years. It's such an easy conversation for me to have with anybody on anything. And the thing is with that is that even though you have that conversation, the doors open, I still say no because I'm looking for that revenue from a how can I say it? I'm looking for a specific revenue spend. All right. I am not the transactional. I'll say it again. I am not a transactional broker. I want nothing to do with it. If you want my one-offs and two-offs, take them. I don't really care. Okay. My focus is on the big hitters. My focus, I will do better and have consistency on larger operations than I will on the smaller ones. It's in my blood. That's where I succeed. That is my niche. I can get that done and it works like clockwork, and it's not much work for me. It really isn't. It's more work for me on smaller customers that
yeah.
ask too many questions, that take much of my time. And if I focus in on big hitters and knock it out of the park, it gets easier. And they
It gets
talk.
easier. 100%. And that's everything you're saying here comes all the way back to the first episode where we talked about your ideal client profile. You set
Yes.
up what you're willing to do and what you're willing to work with. And we joke quite a bit. Like you said, you deal with the big hitters. I've got certain things in my client profile that I work with. And I think I saw yesterday that logistics itself, I think, is 5% of the whole world's like GDP. This is at least, right? So there's enough for all of us, and everybody says that there's enough for all of us to eat and kind of pick and choose what we want to do. And one thing I kind of want to go back to what you said about sales processes being archaic. I got to disagree. I just feel like Yes, so you got your cold calls, you got your emails, but we have like things like now, like video. Like I'm able to send video. Like think about it now that you're able to have these call. Okay, so remember conference calls when you'd actually be in a conference room and you had like those ugly conference phones. You know, they had like the things,
Yeah,
and then you hit it. It's like, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? And then you're having that phone call, and then you're rushing. Now it's the point that you can have Zoom calls, you can have like Teams calls, you can set up like presentations for customers and things like that. So I think it's depending. You can have introverted, you can have introverted and extroverted people crushing it. So it really doesn't matter. So I think for everybody, the process is different, and that's why I love having this discussion because we're from two different backgrounds, but at the end of the day, we're
yes.
both happy. It's
You know,
really cool.
it's funny. So one of my posts yesterday, or might have been the day before, I'm not going to throw names out there, but a
Throw the
gentleman.
names. No,
No, no, no.
I'm joking. That's not what we're here for.
I'll just say Justin. That's all I'll say is Justin. Yeah, from Tennessee, and he sent me a DM and he said, I want to talk to you about sales and approaches and stuff, and want to bang something off your head and everything like that. So we set up a call. I spoke to him for about 45 minutes. 45 minutes yesterday,
Nice.
and he was talking about AI and how he was able to send out 1,300 emails at once. It like the automatic. I forgot the program or whatever.
Sequence. It's a sequence, yeah.
Yeah. Where he was able to send out a plethora of ones, and he says, it's not working. I hardly ever get any call back. And we started discussing the what is it? The almost like the non-empathetic script approach that's consistent. All you're doing is changing hi
Spray
John,
and pray.
hi
Spray and
Barb,
pray.
hi whatever, and it's the same message and everything. And like this is a system that is used by many, and many are using the same approach. That's why I'm saying it's so archaic. It's the same thing, but it doesn't really tell that person who you are, because there's no human element to it. It's a machine generated script that does it and creates it for you, and then blast it out to an email blast to the masses. And it just takes that human nature away from it. I mean, and I'm telling you, there's a lot of shippers out there, the big hitters, that will not even take it into consideration. To see it, and it's like spam. Garbage, man. I'm telling you, I don't think it's worth it. I don't, and it's not the first time that I heard it.
So I'll tell you something with AI and automation is pretty cool to kind of it's something that we have to embrace, or you get left behind. Because even I saw a video at Manifest yesterday, that conference in where's it, Las Vegas?
Yeah.
DHL. Everybody knows who DHL.
Sure.
They had a presentation of automated warehousing yesterday.
That's awesome.
So sorting, everything like that, and everything coming with that. So when it comes to automation, everybody has a different like the spray and pray method and things like that. I trust AI. Like I use Chat GPT, and I kind of cross reference. We're either, like we said, man, we're either going to be sweet to somebody or we're going to be salt to somebody, right? So it's going to be a situation where someone's going to take advantage of this, or they're not going to take advantage of it. I can't say his approach is wrong, because at the end of the day, it works for other people, right? From there, and he kind of wants to. That's why he reached out to you, because he likes your post, and he's like, okay, how can I talk about, like, be like Jeff, be like the bodacious cowboy, the trademark, how can I be like him? Out of curiosity, what advice did you give to him?
Do whatever suits best for you. Don't, like I said, there's different options and different alternatives. I'm just throwing thought-provoking ideas out there, and whatever they do with it, I don't care, because they're the ones that got to make that decision. I'm just throwing ideas. That's just it. Like I said, there's many that probably do the same thing that I do. I'm big on building partnerships, and a lot of my work comes from partnerships. When I don't have to make phone calls, it just flows in like a ton. Yeah, I don't know, but let me just say a quick comment, okay? AI warehouse automation Big deal. Okay. You're talking about machines and boxes, not human to human. Okay. So, yeah, I can accept that. I think that's great because a machine doesn't have to talk to a box. I mean, in theory, it has to know where that box is and what upright it is and what position it is and what truck it goes and what door and stuff like that. But there's no human nature. There's no human interaction with that. Okay. It's box to machine, machine to truck. That's it. Okay. But when it gets to that human nature where you have to have that that empathy, that human connection, that's where it doesn't exist. When you get into that automation and stuff like that, you cannot give a machine a soul. You cannot do that. I don't care who the hell you
Not
are.
yet, at least not yet.
You
Well,
can do that.
I'll rebuttal you on this, Jeff. Maybe it's different for everybody else, but the way that I use my emails are made to set up to book a call. So my emails are not about, hey Jeff, how you doing today? Saw that you like the New Jersey Nets. How was the game? Brooklyn Nets. They were good last night. That's not my intent. My intent is to book a scheduled meeting where that human to human piece is that's where it's exposed, right? So I've never called a prospect and been like, okay, let's talk shop, and you're there for 20, 25, 30 minutes. My prospecting calls are literally probably less than 2 minutes if I get them on the phone. Talk to them, hey, this is what I do. Are you interested? Let's book some time. And then that's where we can put up the feed up. And that's when I do research. I don't do research on anybody until I have a scheduled meeting because I'm going through maybe like 50 to 70. So I get what you're kind of saying, but I think on the AI side, and I use AI, full transparency, I do use AI to automate those first touches. And then once I'm kind of off for there, then, hey, once we have that scheduled call, then we'll go into that human to human element. So I think you can use everything. Like think about it, Jeff. Like, you can attest for like back in the day when you used to try to find a client, you go into the phone book or you try to fax somebody or different things or try to find clients, or you knew a guy that knew a guy that you would make it happen. And for me, what's been different is like we got video, we got snail mail, we got social selling. We have all these tools at our disposal that you should be using it. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's exactly what you're doing, right? So
Right.
let's get into some of the comments that DJ kind of made here as saying here, spraying and praying video games. That's right. So see, DJ is a Call of Duty fan, obviously, from there for the spray and pray. But you know what, DJ? I'm not here to knock spray and pray because, like I said, it works. People are successful because of that. Like, if I was to go and spray and pray, if somebody came to me right now, Jeff, and was like, hey, we can send out 5,000 emails for you right now, no limits on your inbox, so it's not going to show as spam. It just changes the name, and all you're doing is maybe like 3 or 4 sentences. Just Gunnar said this actually, that all he does is send one sentence and a thought-provoking thing, and then he's good to go to book that meeting and move forward. But it's those pattern interrupts. Like, I'm trying to interrupt them. Okay, let me take a look at this email. Okay, let me skim them. Let me check their website. Let's see if they're legit. Maybe I'll check their LinkedIn. Let's see who this guy is. Let's see who Jeff Dickinson is. Let's see who Ryan Mohammed is. And then I'll book that scheduled meeting. And then that's for the human to human. But I really feel like, hey, the first touch or anything like that, if that is an option, the person who might reach out to you, they probably weren't doing the right messaging. And you probably should have took a look at their email to see what exactly they're saying, because they probably say, we got trucks everywhere, or we got warehouses everywhere, but it's not the truth, right? So those are just my 2 cents on it.
No, you don't. But no. I mean, yeah, there's so many different ways to slay a dragon, as I say, and approaches are different. I mean, I'm not knocking it. I just basically would rather use my time wisely for Jeff. Okay, yes. It may not be for Ryan or DJ or Scott, but I tried to figure out what works best for me. And a majority of that comes from my background in the industry and the experience that I've had and learned from. The newbies don't have that, so they're going to use a whole different approach, right? I guess it comes with where you worked, how you did things, and how many years you have doing that. That's going to basically tell you what your approach is. I think that really determines the approach. I mean, if you don't have that knowledge, in the pray and spray thing comes into play. I can see that because you're desperate. I mean, it comes out. A newbie's desperate. They want to get that first commission check. They're going to try any freaking way of getting that client to come on board. Okay, they'll go through the training. Some training, like Scott has a 12-week period of time. Others have a week. Some just throw them into the seat of fire, baptismal fire, and say, run with it. Figure it out yourself. Many different places have different training processes. And like I said, from the extreme to zero. So it really depends. And I look at it that way. So I'm not trying to knock it. I just think it's really based on the experience level that you have and what's worked. But you can't figure out what worked unless you're in the industry and you figure that out for yourself.
Yeah, I feel like, you know what, it comes with experience, and it's just like everything, right? You see the guitars behind me. I sucked at it when I first start, and it just takes practice, and you kind of get better to it, and kind of going back to it. I don't know. You've kind of like put a thought in my head. Maybe I should go spray and pray for like the next like month and see what happens, and see what kind of, just to kind of compare the results, because I haven't sprayed and prayed. Maybe in like 4 or 5 years. So with that being said, it is completely different. Jeff, let's end this off on a fun note.
Sure.
And don't be modest, because we are talking about first commission checks and all that stuff. What's your favorite purchase that you ever made with your with any commission check?
What was the first one?
No, your favorite. Well, not first. Let's go with favorite.
Oh, my favorite?
Yeah.
I reinvested into my tools. Because
Nice.
I had to reinvest into my business on that. Maybe I should have saved it, but I wasn't bad off. So it's like, what do I want to do with it? So in order to move forward and get on top of the game and be able to, I invested into a monitor, and then it became 2 27-inch monitors. Then it came 3. Now I've got 4 27-inch monitors. I may get a 48 wraparound, to put on top of my other 4. Then I got my camera and all of this. So I think you should take a little bit of the commission that you do to try to reinvest into yourself, whether you're trying to gain knowledge, tools, and then put a little bit away for yourself.
For the rainy days and things like that. I'll end off with this here because you lead into a perfect point. Everybody knows what the S&P 500 is like the stocks where 500 companies, you put a little bit into there.
Yep.
One of my favorite business people is Alex Hermosi. This one's for you, Daman. He says, forget the S&P 500, invest in the S&Me 500. Invest in yourself, take courses, get better, level up, and things like that. So with that being said, we'll be seeing you guys tomorrow for an amazing casual episode. I felt like this one was pretty casual as well, so we had a lot of fun. Yeah, fun Fridays, baby, with the Bodacious Cowboy. So if you like this video, please share this with your colleagues, anyone that you think that would find value. We'd love actually to hear your first stories of your first commission check, because it's something that, it's more emotional based rather than what you bought with it, right? So with that being said, catch us at 12 and 3 p.m. Eastern time, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And like we said,
have a great day and go after it, man.
Let's go.